What if there was a United States of Africa, and Africa became the greatest place on earth? What if the most powerful nation in the world wasn't the West, wasn't in Europe, wasn't in Asia, but right here on African soil? What if the future superpower wasn't just rich in resources, but rich in unity, innovation, and soul? This is not a fantasy. This is the vision of a United States of Africa, and if it became real, Africa wouldn't just rise. It would lead, and the world would follow. Africa, the birthplace of humanity, the blueprint for the future. Africa isn't just a continent. It's the beginning of everything. The land where humanity was born, the source of gold, diamonds, oil, music, rhythm, and story. But for too long, Africa has been seen through the lens of suffering, struggle, and scarcity. Now imagine this. No more begging. No more borders. No more broken pieces. Imagine 54 countries becoming one African nation, a continental flag, a continental passport, a shared vision, a shared voice, a place where black excellence isn't rare. It's a foundation, geopolitical powerhouse with over 1.4 billion people. The United States of Africa will become one of the most powerful and populous countries on earth. Its size would dwarf the United States. Its population would rival China and India. Its voice unstoppable. One government representing the entire continent. One vote in global forums with real leverage. No more Western diplomats deciding African futures. Africa would speak for itself, and the world would listen. This is the dream leaders like Haile Selassie I stood for. When he helped found the Organization of African Unity in 1963, he wasn't just thinking about the present. He was laying the foundation for a future beyond colonization, beyond division, beyond weakness. And that future, it could look like this. An economic engine like no other. Africa is the richest continent on Earth. Let that sink in. 90% of the world's platinum, 60% of cobalt, 40% of gold, 30% of all minerals needed for smartphones, electric cars, satellites, oil, gas, fertile land, sunshine year-round. Yet the people remain poor. Why? Because outsiders exploit the riches and Africans get crumbs. Now imagine this, a united Africa controlling its own resources, building its own factories, trading with itself, exporting not raw materials but technology, energy, and brilliance. A single African currency, a continent-wide high-speed rail system, and skyline cities in every region, from Dakar to Dar es Salaam. No one leaves to find an opportunity. The opportunity lives here, a hub for innovation, technology, and education. Africa would become the brain center of the 21st century. Pan-African universities leading in medicine, robotics, agriculture, startups solving real African problems. From clean water to smart farming, tech giants built by Africans, owned by Africans, renewable energy powering entire cities. Because a continent has sunlight to spare, the diaspora wouldn't have to look back in regret. They would return in triumph. This is the Africa that Garvey and Selassie envisioned, a place where we no longer beg for visas, but issue them, where we don't chase Western dreams, because we're living our own culture like nowhere else on Earth. What would the greatest place on Earth feel like? It would sound like Afro beats and traditional drums echoing across cities. It would look like fashion woven with heritage, dripping with royalty. It would move like dancers on sand and skyline. It would taste like home, from jollof rice to injera, from tagine to fufu. Africa is already the cultural heartbeat of the world. But when it's united, that heartbeat becomes a roar. African movies, African news networks, African stories, told by us for us. Imagine walking down the street in Lagos, Nairobi, Addis, or Kinshasa, and feeling like you're not in a developing nation, but in the capital of the future, the green superpower of the planet. Africa would lead the charge against climate change. Why? Because we've suffered the most while contributing the least. But united, we would build the largest solar farms in Sahara, harness hydropower from our mighty rivers, create green cities from scratch, demand justice from polluters in the global north. While others panic about the environment, Africa would lead the solution, but the road is not easy. Make no mistake, this vision will face resistance. Foreign powers will fear it. Corrupt leaders will fight it. Old colonial lines will try to divide us. But as Haile Selassie I once said, Unity is a cornerstone of African liberation. It's not about geography, it's about mindset. We must stop seeing each other as strangers and start seeing each other as family. Only then can we build the Africa our ancestors dreamed of, the Africa our children deserve, the Africa that becomes not just a better place, but the best place on earth. Africa isn't waiting for permission anymore. It doesn't need saving. It doesn't need charity. It needs unity. It needs vision. And it needs people like you who believe in its greatness. Do you believe in the United States of Africa not just as a dream, but as our destiny? Stay conscious, stay committed, and never forget Africa is not behind. Africa is the future, and the future will be African.